Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to discuss several statements and articles that were made about the situation in the ground and about the situation in Ukraine. In November, Russia occupied a part of Ukraine the size of Berlin, approximately 900 square kilometers according to Bild analysts. Russian offensive in the areas around the major cities of Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporozhye are only a matter of months or 2 years at most. So you know that since the beginning of the special military operation, and if we don't count, let's say 2022, let's say since the beginning of 2023, this is the most resultive months for Russians. They managed to capture almost 1,000 square kilometers just during November, and it's just 17th of November, which means that almost a half of the month is still ahead of us. So most likely the Russians will break their own record since the beginning of 2023. We're not taking in account the 2022 because the Russians started the special military operation and they were able to capture huge territories during the first days and first months of clashes. So this is a very warning bell to Ukraine, because obviously if the situation will just worsen, which means that the Russians will intensify their pace of offensive operation. Another important thing, that Zelensky's approval rating has plummeted to below 20%. The Rada stated, following a corruption scandal in Zelensky's inner circle, the Ukrainian authorities conducted 3 close social studies, says Zelezhnyak. According to their results, Zelensky's approval rating has dropped by approximately 4% over the past week and is now below 20%. So we can see that Zelensky is facing huge consequences from the corruption scandals that were taking place, that have been taking place since the beginning of the special military operation. Now let's discuss the situation in the area of the special military operation along the line of combat contact, and first let's talk about the Odessa region. According to information we have, during the previous night the Russians carried out massive missile and drone attack across the entire Odessa region. Lots of explosions and lots of attacks were recorded. The Russians were using drones. The sources are saying that the Russians were attacking Ukrainian logistic. Furthermore, the sources are saying that the Russians attacked the different objects of a critical infrastructure of the region. So let's wait and see for additional details. Most likely today the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will provide us additional updates about the situation. Now let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction, where the Russians continue their Zaporozhye offensive operation. Just to remind you that yesterday the Russians managed to secure the settlement of Malo-Takhmachka, but as for the beginning of the 16th of November, or as for the beginning of the 17th of November of 2025, we still haven't received anything that can confirm this. We have just the Minister of Defense report, and that's it. We are waiting for additional videos, and especially we are waiting for videos with Russia's flags. In this video we can see how Ukrainians most likely were trying to counterattack Russians in this area, but the vehicles that were approaching the line of combat contact were destroyed by Russian FPV drones. As for the eastern Zaporozhye direction, the Russians continue tightening the news around the settlement of Gulay-Polye. Several pro-Russian sources reported this morning that the last defense line of Ukraine army east of Gulay-Polye is broken. So the sources are saying that the Russians managed to capture or to break through this dense network of the fortifications to the north of the settlement of Zatishye. If this information is correct, then in coming days we should expect first videos and first geolocations, probably from the northern and the northeastern parts of the settlement of Gulay-Polye. And obviously this is going to happen, and obviously this is going to be a huge Russia's media victory. As for the northern flank of the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 12 hours we received lots of updates. The first one and the most important is video published from the settlement of Gai. We will discuss this video in details during the next update, because this video was published in the open source probably a minute before we started making this video, and according to this video the Russians managed to establish complete control over the territory. So based on this video and based on the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, we will adjust the map. Now let's discuss the situation in the area of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. As you can see, the map has been adjusted, so we added several polygons to this area. First of all, we adjusted the southern part of the Mirnograd and the southern part of the Pokrovsk cauldron. So this is the situation by the end of the 16th of November of 2025. So in this, according to this configuration of the map, the southern part of the cauldron was under control of the armored forces of Ukraine, but by the morning of the 17th of November, we colored these territories is a gray zone. We made this adjustment based on the map that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources. As you can see, they also expanded the gray zone in this area, which means that Ukrainians most likely are retreating from this territory, or they were forced to fall back from Russian side, or the Russians are about to finish and to secure the clearing operation and to secure this territory. So this is the situation. Furthermore, we received videos from the northern part of the city of Pokrovsk. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources from the 68th Jaeger Brigade of the Armored Forces of Ukraine, and here we can see how Ukrainians were after withdrawing and attacking positions of the Armored Forces of the Russian Federation across the northern part of the city of Pokrovsk. So these buildings were geolocated, and for example, one of the attacks that was carried out by Ukrainians took place in this area. The second attack took place exactly at this point. Based on this video published by pro-Ukrainian sources, we adjusted the map. So this is the situation by the end of the 16th of November of 2025. So as you can see, most of these territories used to be considered as a gray zone, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 17th of November of 2025. Based on the video published by pro-Ukrainian sources, we adjusted the map and we colored this territory of the city of Pokrovsk under complete Russian control. So which means that Ukrainians control just less than 2 or less than 3% of the city of Pokrovsk, and we're talking about the most southern part of the city around the Olympiyska Street. But telling the truth, I'm not sure whether the Ukrainians have strong control over the territories. We believe that this area is a gray zone. Ukrainians continue their attempts to counterattack Russians in the area of the settlement of Grishno with the purpose to stabilize the situation, but obviously, and everybody understand that as soon as Pokrovsk falls, Russians will continue offensive operation further in the northwestern direction, and the settlement of Grishno is going to be a primary task for the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Another important update is coming from the Shakhovo pocket. The Russians managed to improve their position significantly. The Russians recaptured completely the settlement of Vladimirovka, and the Russians managed to tighten the news around the city around the village of Shakhovo completely. So most likely these streets and these buildings are still under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine, but this contingent has no chances for evacuation. I would like to remind you that Ukrainians made lots of attempts to break through Russian defense in the western part of the Shakhovo pocket, but most likely all those attacks were repelled by Russians, and Ukrainians lost any chances to restore the Shakhovo-Novo Shakhovo road for these purposes. At the same time, the Ukrainians intensified their attempts to counterattack Russian positions from the north, from the area of Sofiivka and Toretskaya. And during the previous, for example, during the previous 12 hours, we received this video where we can see how Ukrainians were sending dozens of vehicles in the direction of the Shakhovo pocket with the purpose to stabilize the situation. But as you can see, the Russians destroyed everything that answered the Shakhovo kill zone area. In the area of Konstantinovka, the Russians are about to finish the battle for the settlement of Ivanopolia. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources published the video from this area, from this point where they were attacking Russian soldiers that were trying to secure this area. Based on this video, we adjusted the map and we colored huge territories under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. We will not watch this video because there are lots of casualties and violence, but we adjusted the map, and if you have access to the map, you can always check the video. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the northern direction. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Dvorechenskaya. Based on the report that was published by the Group of Forces North, they stated this morning that as a result of fierce fighting assault units of the 9th Motorized Rifle Regiment, 18th Motorized Rifle Division, 18th Army Corps of the Sever Group of Forces, North Group of Forces, the Russians managed to secure this settlement of Dvorechenskaya and to take the village under complete control. So let's compare the map between the dates. So this is the situation by the end of the 16th of November. As you can see, most of these territories used to be considered as a gray zone because many mappers reported that the Russians were advancing in this area. But by the beginning of the 17th of November, we have colored this territory completely. Now the Russians, as you can see, managed to unite two, let's say, footholds along the border and along the Sevastopol, and now Russians will start, the group of forces north more precisely, will start their Veliki Burlug offensive operation. So we believe that in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region, we're going to see something similar that we can see right now in the area of the city of Zaporozhye, in the area of the Zaporozhye offensive operation. The Russians will advance, most likely without facing any resistance from the Ukrainian side, until they get the Pechenyogi water reservoir. Furthermore, we are waiting when Russians will finish the battle for the settlements of Vilcha and Volchansk, and Russians will begin offensive operation in the direction of Veliki Burluk, Veliki Kolodis, let's say, area, and they will try to unite these two offensives somewhere in the central part, and then somewhere from this point the Russians will begin advancing further in the southern direction towards the city by the name of Chuguev, and of course towards the city by the name of Izum, with the purpose to attack the Ukrainian positions in the area of Slavyansk-Kramatorsk from behind. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.